we're dead a whole lot longer than we're alive, right?
Yeah.
So I want that to mean something. And so I have a different mindset of figure out your lifestyle first. And in today's day and age, there's two things you need to scale a business without overworking. It's technology and it's people.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Jerry Norton with Flipping Mastery, and is here to share how he went from low margin, high volume wholesaling flipping to high margin flips through new construction and multi-million-dollar flips. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, broker, owner of Stunning Homes Realty, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the one app you need for wholesaling, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So first thing is, what got you into real estate?
Well, great question. So I've been full-time now for about 15 years. And when I first got into real estate, I was working construction, digging holes, minimum wage, mid-20s, going nowhere in my life. Knew two things. I wanted to change that. I didn't know how. Real estate was one of those things that was always felt kind of elusive. But I was a hustler, and so when I learned about wholesaling, I was like, I can do this. This is hustle work, because wholesaling's hustle work, right?
And
I can do this.
You're mid-20s.
Yeah, mid-20s.
Which is in line with today's demographic of wholesalers.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's kind of, so if you've got some hustle in your mid-20s, most people can do really well with.
Yeah.
And this was Detroit.
Oh.
So I was doing low end. I'm talking like $5,000 and $10,000 houses, Detroit.
Yeah.
When I started then. Yeah.
Okay. And then somewhere along the way, you got into wholesaling and flipping.
Yeah.
So what was that journey like?
Well, so first I thought I was a buy and hold guy. That's what most people who get into real estate, they think of cash flow rentals. So at the time, what was happening was I was working with a couple wholesalers who were bringing me deals. And I don't know if you remember this, anybody listening, in 2004, 2005, but they had this no doc, no verification, no income loan, right?
Ninja loans.
Like if you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan.
Yeah.
And that was me. I mean, they had no business giving me loans. What was happening though is a wholesaler would bring me these deals for like 20, 30. I'd put 20 into them. I'm all in for 50. They'd appraise for 80. They would refi me with no credit, no nothing. They'd refi me at 50 and I'd turn around and do another one. So this wholesaler, in the course of a year and a half, I picked up 20 rental properties, literally, virtually without not having no business doing that.
Yeah.
And I quickly learned, what happened was I woke up one day and I'm like, this sucks. I'm not made for this. Where's the money? That was the question I had. Where's the money? And I'm like, these wholesalers that brought me these 20 deals, they were making $7,000, $10,000 a deal. I was happy because they were fitting the numbers, right?
Right.
But I was like, dang, these guys made a lot of money. I haven't seen a dime with these rentals. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of had a mind shift change and got out of all of those rental properties. Took me a little while, got out of all of those and went straight wholesaling.
Okay.
And did wholesaling full time for about 2 years before I ever touched a rehab.
Okay. And then so you went from that and then you started flipping. Yeah.
So then what happened was this is Detroit, and what happened was I started wholesaling to out-of-state investors because the bottom fell out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so all this outside money was coming to Detroit. I called it the cheap factor. So California and then overseas. I'd wholesale them a house, but then they wouldn't buy another one until they got that one fixed up and rented. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, let me help you do that. Yeah. So by default, I got into the renovating. And so then I was doing a turnkey model where I'd renovate it, put a tenant in it, sell it, ready to go.
That's still a popular model today.
Yeah, still works today. But I was doing 70, 80 of those a year.
Wow.
For a few years.
Wow.
Until 08, 09, that fell out. And at that time I said, I got to reinvent myself. So I took basically what I was doing and went retail. So first time buyer market, the 150 to 200 price point. And I started just continuing what I was doing, but now flipping retail rather than the turnkey rental to investors.
Okay.
Because my investors were doing the same thing. They would buy one, refi, buy another one, refi. So I'd sell one guy 10 houses.
Yeah.
And it was nice. Well, when they could no longer do that, I could only turnkey to cash buyers. And so my model basically kind of fell apart.
And then at which point from there did you turn into
higher end?
Your big transition?
Yeah.
At one point you said, screw this.
Yeah.
What
Screw this
caused
volume
that?
model. Well, so a couple things happened. My wife and I we've had this dream for years of traveling with our family in an RV. And we homeschooled our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had this vision, but at the time I was so tied to my business. Like it was I was doing 50 to 70 retail flips, fix and flips. And some of your listeners, that's not very impressive. Some of them it is, but I was a one-man show doing that.
Really?
Not real good systems, just running around ragged. So it was not, at first it was great because it was a lot, I was making good money, but anybody knows when you're flipping, after a while that wears off. Like you're like, I'm making good money, but I'm not happy working
Depressed.
like a dog. Yeah. And I hit that point where I'm like, something's got to change. The money's awesome, but I'm no longer enjoying this. Like the thrill of the money's over. The honeymoon's over. I mean, better than digging holes for minimum wage, but
Absolutely.
So we started to have this vision of, well, what would that look like? And at the time I was like, there's no way this whole thing would fall apart if I leave for a day. Right. So, and then at the same time, something happened where I did this deal, and it was way out of my bread and butter or my comfort zone. It was almost a 400,000 ARV, and I'd been flipping 150
in Detroit.
Yeah,
Okay.
suburbs.
Okay.
Yeah, so on my 150 ARVs, I'd make 25, 30 profit, right? And I was happy. That was good. That's what I thought was the model. Well, I did this house that sold for like 375 or 380, and I made 75,000.
That's a little better.
Yeah, well, what I did is I said, well, wait a minute. I took a step back and I said, wait a minute. It was the same amount of time, energy, and effort to do this one for 375 as it was for these little ones for 150. But I made 3 times as much money.
So you went from 25 on 150K to 75K on about 400.
On about a 400.
Okay.
But here was the big takeaway. Same time, energy, and effort, because I got to still manage a rehab. I got to get a painter. I mean, things a little different because it's a bigger home and a little nicer.
Yeah.
But basically, and more capital. I mean, that was the big thing, more capital. But apples to apples, it was 3 times as much money for the same amount of time, energy, and effort. And that was the biggest aha moment for me was, why am I doing 50 deals a year? Why don't I do 10 and make just as much money or maybe even more? And that was kind of a transition I was going to. At the same time, our family did a 30-day RV trip just to kind of test the waters. And we did that trip, and it was horrendous. It was horrible. We had the worst experience ever. We had 6 kids.
Oh,
6 kids.
Wow, okay.
Well,
I can see
the
why that'd be
RV was too
miserable.
small, and we were trying to cover too much ground. And we got home and we're like, okay, that dream's over. Cross that out. We're not doing that. But and my business fell apart while I was gone for 30 days. Right?
Okay.
So we get back home and we're like, if we would have had a different setup, it would have been better. And if we would have done this different and that different, and we couldn't get away from just that idea of nowhere to go, open road, our kids, real education, learning, spending time together. And so we came back to it and we got the right RV. We got this 50-foot, it was awesome, custom built for us. And we sold everything. I mean,
Okay.
my 8,000 square foot house, cars, boats, we got rid of everything. All we had left, Steve, fit in a 1-unit storage unit, like a 1-bay storage unit. That's all we had left.
Okay.
Pulled a Suburban behind the RV, left January 15th, and went straight to Florida, because this is Michigan winter, right? Straight to 3 days to Florida, straight to Florida, and did a whole year. And when I did that, it was the biggest leap of faith in my business, because I didn't know how it was going to work out. But what happened was not being there in the day-to-day, and also I kind of opened up and I said, why can't I do the same thing in other markets? Why does it have to be Detroit? There's a learning curve there, but I started doing deals, outside of my home market, following the same principles, right? A formula, and you do these things and comps and all of that. And what I found was when I was forced to not be there in the day-to-day, I figured out how to manage things remotely, and I hardly worked that entire year. Here's the big lesson I hope people take away. I hardly worked. I mean, I worked a little bit, but hardly. Like maybe 10 hours a week was about it in the RV that year. But my real estate business made more money that year than any year previously.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I attribute that to building systems. First of all, doing higher margin deals.
Yeah.
Right, that was a big one. But then also finding a way to get stuff done that I didn't have to do. And I couldn't. I was so stunned that I was doing all of these things that I thought I had to do because I was there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest temptation when you're there. You're like, oh, I'll just run out to the property and check on the painter.
Yeah.
or I'll just go do that. And I wasn't doing any of that anymore. I was learning how to outsource all of that. And I found that other people could do it probably better than I could anyway. And it just became a thing where I would manage a few processes, doing the right types of deals now, and freed up so much time, not being there at the job sites, at the deals.
Well, so that's crazy, right? So you had a business that you were, it was going, but you were frustrated with. And you said, I'll just let someone else manage it. I'm going to go hit the road and then do the 10 hours a week. And it just kind of took care of itself.
Yeah.
So you were still getting deals sent to you, to your phone. I mean, what year was this?
2013.
2013. So,
Yep.
Getting sent to maybe your iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? And you would analyze it, and then you say yes or no, and then everyone else is doing the work.
Yep. I even had a first layer analyzing. So I paid a guy $50 to analyze a deal that would come to me.
Yeah.
$50, right? And I don't have to do it now.
Right. So he
And then if
underwrites
it
for
passed
$50.
him, then it would come to me. So 9 out of 10 he'd kill. I'd get the one that passed the sniff test.
So you paid him $50 regardless of whether or not you took it down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. That's serious.
Yeah. But it didn't really cost that much. For me not having to do it anymore, oh my gosh, it was huge.
Yeah.
Just that alone transformed my entire business.
That was a big nugget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's guys that know this business. So this guy is a 5 deal a year guy, he's full time, but he's I'm going to run to Home Depot. I'm going to do this. So as a side thing for me, he analyzes my deals, pay him $50. He makes a couple grand a month. I don't have to do it. Saves me hours.
Yeah.
And he knows what I'm looking for. So I've trained him well on, there's 2 things, right? ARV and repairs.
Yeah.
You get those 2 right, then you can get your buy number.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's been working really well.
Okay. Any other big takeaways that you could expound upon right now?
Yeah. So if someone were to say to me, what, and this was one of your questions you were asking me earlier was, what advice would you give somebody new in the business, really anybody, is the mistake I made in the beginning was the same mistake everybody makes, which is this mindset of if I hustle, then that's how I'm going to win and that's how I'm going to get ahead. But here's the thing. If you work 100 hours a week, then you are only 2.5 times an average employee working 40 weeks. That is huge for me because 2.5 times working 100 hours a week, that's 7 days a week, that's every waking hour you're working. And all you're getting is a 2.5 times gain. That's not scalable.
No, it's not scalable.
It's not scalable. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So I have a different mindset of figure out your lifestyle first. And in today's day and age, there's 2 things you need to scale a business without overworking. It's technology and it's people.
Right.
Right? If you've got technology and you're using technology right, you can save so much time.
Right.
And if you've got the right team people doing things, then they can save you so much time. So I've focused now on the past several years on how do I build out my technology and maximize and optimize, and how do I get the right people doing the right things. And those 2 things allow me to not overwork, but still grow and scale my businesses.
Now, it sounds really simple, right? It's just those 2 things.
But
each of those 2 things is amazingly detailed, right? So I've told many people, I'm incredibly blessed that I have amazing people behind me. If I didn't have the people behind me, I wouldn't be doing this show right now. I'd be returning phone calls, text messages, whatever. So, but it took me a long, long time of personal development to get this point as far as the people side, right?
Totally.
And then the technology side, so I have an app that we've created, and it's working. We're getting good feedback, but that wasn't easy. So you built your technology. Are you dealing with developers? You're negotiating with the programmers? What is that like?
So I have all my own software that we've created, and it's so my deal management platform is called Flipster, and it's an entire.
Oh, that's your company. Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we developed that. It's for flippers, wholesaling and fix and flip. But it's an entire platform for managing every part of the business. So everything from acquisition, analyzing, offering, wholesaling, your cash buyers, your CRMs, your website, all of it, A to Z, funding, everything, proof of funds. So we built a platform, and I basically just took everything I've been doing for years that's been on spreadsheets and kind of all over, and put it in an all-in-one, all-inclusive platform where you can just manage everything, and it communicates with itself. And so it's really cool. That alone has really helped me grow my business and manage it. Because here's the thing, you can do 1 or 2 deals and be unorganized.
Right.
But if you want to start scaling, you start forgetting. I mean, I don't know who I talked to yesterday, and where'd that go? And you're driving across town looking for your paperwork, or
did I tell him that? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was a mess. That's how I operated for a long time. And so that tool, we have some really cool deal analyzer tools. I have one tool that is an on-market deal finder tool, and we get 1,500, 2,000 downloads of that software because I give it away for free.
Okay.
A week. We get 2,000 people download that a week.
Amazing.
And it's just a time-saving tool for on-market. What it does is it basically gives you a list of everything that's underpriced, which is probably a motivated seller.
Yeah.
But it weeds through everything on market and says, here's what's under the average price per square foot. Here's the percentage below, and then there's a way to organize and manage that data to keep it. So it's just a time saver, but it's huge.
Absolutely.
To have something like that.
Yeah, if you're doing deals, it's a no-brainer.
So the way I do if you're interested, Steve, I have a development team that's in Pakistan, and they're a 3-person team. My lead developer is like $12 an hour. He would be $180,000 a year U.S. guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we've priced them out. We priced them out.
He's amazing.
They're not cheap.
And he's living probably top of the food chain in Pakistan.
Right.
And he manages a couple of guys. So when we do a big project, we just deal with him. He brings on help, and that's how we kind of build out all our software and tools.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you're a licensed broker. Tell me about that.
So right when I got into real estate, I got my license, not for being a real estate agent, but just to have access to the MLS.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to set up my own showings, I wanted to access properties, and I wanted to run comps.
Right.
And in 04, 05, these other tools like Zillow, Redfin, they weren't developed really then. I mean, if you didn't have MLS, it was hard to do the business.
You're flying dark.
Yeah, I mean, you could get an agent, but then you're always waiting on the agent. So I just got it for my own investing. What I found was every year the broker would pull me in and he would say, you're not making any sales, because I was doing deals but not running them through the brokerage. So I'd have to find a new broker. So finally I just said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to get my own broker's license. I don't got to answer to anybody. So that's what I did. I got my broker's license. That brokerage is still active in Michigan. I have, usually 5 or 10 agents that work under that brokerage. I spend maybe a couple hours a year in that business because I've got someone that manages those guys, and it's super hands off. And but I keep it active, and it's great. And they pay me basically a per transaction fee, and then I tell them, don't ever ask me for anything. I don't want to hear about it. Follow the rules and the law, and pay your insurance. Pay
We're
your
telling
insurance.
them to follow the rules.
And they're all investors, so
and then you have. I was kind of surprised. So I was telling my buddy Max, Jerry's coming on the show. Jerry Norton. He's like, oh, that's the guy with the big following. He's got the program, whatever, or not the program. He's got the YouTube channel.
Oh,
so I looked it up. I was like, you've got like 14,000 subscribers. What's that about?
Well, just to put that in perspective, my goal is 1 million
subscribers.
So, 1 million subscribers. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not about the subscribers. That's just the benchmark. So everything I've done in my training business for the past 8-9 years. I was telling you this before the show. It's all been paid advertising. So, I'll pay to run ads. I'll get people in my funnels that do my books and my programs and my home study courses and my coaching and all of that. But it's been so I look at that following though, and we built like 1 million subscriber email list. And so I know online marketing, I know email marketing, I know those things. But what I haven't done is I haven't built any kind of, in my opinion, any kind of organic following by really being impactful, right? So now I've completely changed we're still going to do advertising because it works, but now what I want to really have influence and impact, but I want to do it organically. I don't want to pay my way to it. I want to build that by giving good content. So that's the goal with the YouTube channel. We're doing a video a day on the channel. But like I was telling you, my vision isn't 15, 20,000 subscribers. It's 1 million subscribers, because that, for me, that'll be a benchmark that I'm really having a massive impact.
Yeah.
So, but I've got to be able to really put out good content, consistent content, and have it mean something to somebody for it to really happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, to have when I was looking at it, like a video a day, it's just nuts. I can't even imagine doing that. So that's Real Estate Freedom TV, guys. If you guys want to check it out, it's pretty cool. And it looks like we were talking about impact and giving back. Financial freedom seems to be the message, the core message. Yeah. So talk about that.
Yeah. So, kind of like I was saying a minute ago, I want to be. We're dead a whole lot longer than we're alive, right?
Yeah.
So I want that to mean something. And so too often people get into real estate and it's about the stuff. It's about the money. It's about the house and the luxury cars. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want nice stuff too.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to be my sole focus. And it was for a while. It was all about the money.
Right.
But I've got 8 kids and I want to be balanced. I don't want to overwork. I love real estate, but if I'm honest, it's not about houses, right? It's about what that provides. And so for me, I look at it, there's 4 things. There's be, do, give, and be, do, have, and give, right? Be the person, develop yourself, your talents, your hobbies, be able to have nice things, right? And do nice things, but also give back in a meaningful way and be able to do those things that really matter. And I think the only way to do that is to have time. And the only way to have time, I think you have to have financial first, but if you're careful, then that can free up time. So one of my mentors, and this is kind of where I learned this, one of my mentors taught me that too many entrepreneurs get into business and they have this mindset of, in the beginning, I'm going to work 80 hours a week and 100 hours a week. And then someday in the near future, hopefully, I'm going to arrive.
Yeah.
And as soon as I arrive, then I'm going to live my dream lifestyle.
Right.
But what happens is during those 2 or 3 years, you develop habits. And then they get there and they could change, but they don't change.
Right.
Because they've just developed these habits.
Yeah.
So I've kind of looked at things and said, any project I take on, I look at it and I say, can I do it without overworking and becoming imbalanced? If I can't, and I don't see a clear way to do it, then don't do it.
Right.
So that's kind of my filter is it going to jeopardize my ideal lifestyle? Is there a way for me to do that thing, but not become imbalanced by doing it and overworking? And I'm not perfect at it.
Oh no.
But I try.
So that's one of the things that we try to impart on at our brokerage and the other people that we work with is that everyone has this idea that you've got this business and you fit your life around it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's backwards.
It's backwards.
You got your life.
Yeah.
And your business serves your life.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people get that wrong.
Yeah, that's why when I look at deals, so let's say a deal comes in and I put it through a filter, and my filter is, my first filter is, what do I have going on in my life right now? If I've got a lot going on personally in my life, then my step is wholesale it, because then you're done, right?
Right.
If I've got bandwidth, so my second filter is then, okay, business-wise, does this deal make sense to take on? So I either wholesale it or I fix and flip it. So fix and flip is a whole nother layer of management, right? Because you got to get funding, you got to do a renovation. So then I say, is it worth the return on investment? Is this worth the time, energy, and effort it's going to take me to take on this deal? And if I've got the bandwidth personally and in my business, I'll take it on. If I don't, I wholesale it. And I love that model.
Right. It's a great model.
It's a great model because it keeps you in check so that you're not overdoing it. Too many people are like, I'll take it on. And next thing you know, you're working, you're overworking, and your relationships are falling apart, your spirituality, your personal, like your health, all those things go secondary, and it's all about the deal.
Right. Fastest way to broke.
Yeah, and miserable and unhappy.
Yeah. So, guys, remember this is a live show, so please do ask your questions. Okay, so we talked about you were doing 50, 75 deals in Detroit, right? And you were wholesaling. It was a high volume, low margin business. So a low margin on those wholesales and flips. So flip was 25K. What was the wholesale?
Wholesale 710.
710.
Yeah, every now and then I'd get a 12 or 13,
Yeah.
and then that was a big deal. Now that's not a big deal at all.
Right.
We're in a different market, but
so back then that was and I think those numbers are pretty consistent with today. Right?
Yeah.
If someone's wholesaling and flipping,
yeah, they're pretty average.
7 to 13 is a good target for wholesale, and the flip is 20 to 30. Right. So now
for entry level.
For entry
level, yeah.
Right. And so you're talking about new construction and luxury. So let's start with luxury, and then we'll talk about new construction. Luxury, what is your how do you define luxury? And after that, what's your target acquisition? Great.
So to me, I think the safe place for people to transition to is the 300 to 600. Because I wouldn't call that luxury. I typically call luxury over 600 in most markets. Now in California, you can buy a shed,
600 is crap.
or New York City or whatever, right? But in most markets, you start to change into a luxury buyer, usually over 600, 700, because now you got to start thinking about, do I put in a sub-zero $20,000 fridge? Am I doing like crazy crown, or am I going really? So your strategy,
the details matter more.
Details start to matter a whole lot more. Not 3 to 6 though. 3 to 6 is basically the same thing you're doing at 150, 200 in a nicer neighborhood in a bigger home.
Right.
So now it's 4,000 square foot instead of 1,800, and it's just, other than that, you're almost doing the same granite, the same everything else. You're just a different neighborhood. So it's an easy transition, but your margins go way up.
Yeah.
So I like the 3 to 6 is that's now my low end is 3 to 6. Luxury though is pushing that 6 to $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. So for example, I've got a deal right now up in Scottsdale, bought it for $630. We're almost done. Our rehab was a little over 2, and we've got a couple interested buyers at 1.2. So, we're looking at about a 400 gross. And I've got obviously closing fees and carry and stuff, but a gross $400,000 spread on one deal.
Yeah.
And it's still a 6-month turn, like we're turning it in 6 months, hopefully. Maybe a little longer time on market, right? Because you're at that price point where you might have to wait for that buyer a little bit longer, but nothing really changes a whole lot more on my lower end model other than you better really understand that buyer, what they want. Get a designer and don't guess on your electrical fixture, on your light fixtures, and your don't guess.
Bring in a professional.
Get experts. So I get experts. I get expert agents and designers, and I really try to make sure I know that buyer way more than you don't need to know your buyer at $200,000.
Yeah,
you don't need to know that buyer.
It's a lot of them.
They're just
there's a lot of those guys out there.
Yeah, and it's easy to figure out what's in style today and all of that. But at the higher ends, you really got to know your buyer. It's very market specific. But think about it. I'd have to do 15 houses at 25 a pop, right, or whatever, 12 or so to make the same on just this one deal. And here's the thing: there's way less competition buying a house for 600.
There's almost no competition.
There's almost no competition.
Yeah.
So not all markets can support it. Arizona can.
Right.
And so you got to hit, but every market has their high end. Every market does. I don't care what market you're in. There's suburbs that are your $1 million neighborhoods, right? So that's where you go, and you'll find that it's, I think 80% of fix and flippers are under 200,000 ARV.
Yeah.
So maybe another 10% go from 200 to maybe 350. Virtually none. Maybe 5% are the higher end flippers.
Right.
So it's a different world there.
So we're looking at 600 plus, right? So you're buying this one for 600, and we're talking about gross margin of 400. How did you source that deal?
Yep. Well, so I picked Desert Mountain, Scottsdale, and then we just started really looking. So I like to look at new construction first, and if I can understand the new construction market, then I can kind of see what retail's doing on flips around that. So same homes that are going on there that are your remodel homes, and then I try to figure out, okay, well, if this is what the new construction buyer looks like, what does the retail in that same neighborhood or that same area look like? And so I always kind of go in first with new construction in mind.
Okay.
And I'll give you for example, in Fountain Hills here, we're doing one where bought the lot for 100. We're doing about an 800 construction, maybe 850 build, 4,500 square foot, and so I'm all in around 9 and maybe 950, but back end's 1.4. And it's a 4,500 square foot. I know my buyer. It's a second home buyer from Canada that buys new construction in Fountain Hills.
Yeah.
And I know because I've done my homework to learn what does that buyer want? What, no steps at all.
Oh yeah.
Right? And what kind of, so pool and kitchen and all of that, we spent a lot of time trying to learn. But from that and understanding that buyer, I can now start to look at the rest of Fountain Hills, for example, and understand, well, there's a certain buyer that is not the new construction, notch it down. Now what are they looking for? And how do I provide a product that's like new construction?
Yeah.
Is typically the way I'll go.
Okay. But going back to the other property in Scottsdale, how did you source that specific deal?
I just decided that I want to search that area. It was on market.
It was on market?
Yeah, it was on market. Yeah, so it was on market. And there's 3 or 4 more that I'm really eyeing.
Yeah.
I got to prove this one because it's a little, I'm pushing the market at 1 too.
Right.
I'm pushing the market.
So you've sourced it, you've taken it down. And then I'm assuming you have lenders that you work with on a first name basis that give you pretty good rates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what?
But I do 100% funding.
So 100% funding. What about the rehab?
So what I do is I usually do an 80-20 or a 90-10. So I'll get hard money, or asset lenders at the 80 to 90%.
Okay.
And then private money on so that's total. So purchase and rehab, right? And that's what's so cool about the market today. Hard money lenders are cheaper than they've ever been.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like single digits. I mean, are you kidding? I paid 15 to 18% when I first started, and 8 points. But it was all that was available.
Right.
You know, so now if you can show a track record, you can get down to 9%, 1 point. If you're new, you might be paying 12%, 2 points, 80%. So come in with 20%. So I'll use private money to cover the other 20%. I'm 100% in.
Okay. So you said 6 months whole time. You manage a crews? You have a crew? What's that look like?
Yeah, so there's 2 models there. I like the GC model and manage the GC. Now, I haven't always been under that belief, but you have to if you want to scale.
Yeah.
And you have to if you want to do remote. So like I just did a deal in Houston, Texas. It was a Hurricane Harvey house. I've never saw the property once, not once. I didn't go out there in the beginning, middle, or end. And so I had to rely heavily on I've got a system I follow for my remote deals.
Yeah.
And it's basically you got to have a GC. You got to budget higher than you normally would, right? Because if you want a good GC, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I go into every deal 20% higher than my competition. So I got to work harder because I got to buy it less because I'm paying more. But I want to build in my management into the deal. And then my system is I have a NARC who follows up on I call him a NARC. But it's basically someone that goes out to the property.
He was the tattletale back in school.
He's the tattletale.
Yeah.
And those guys are cheap. I mean, all I want them to do is go out there and take pictures and video and tell me what's going on.
Kind of like a secret shopper.
And the GC never knows when the NARC's showing up.
Yeah.
So he can't screw with me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a huge nugget,
Yeah.
right?
I pay him. So I find someone really local. Usually it's a freelance photographer on Craigslist. Because all I need him to do is go out there and take video and pictures and tell me what's going on. That's it. He doesn't need to know any construction, nothing. Doesn't need to talk to anybody. So he'll go out there at 10 a.m. and say, there's nobody here. And I'll call my GC and I'll say, yeah, we're working away. No, you're not. And so now I take massive action to correct if we're off our timeline. But I don't need to be there.
That's incredible. I mean, you outsource really just about everything. So you got the NARC and you got the GC. That's pretty much it, right? I mean,
that's all I need.
Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, what I'll do is the very first thing I do. So when I get an remote deal, out of state deal, the very first thing I do before I even pick my GC or anything is I decide who my listing agent's going to be, and I go for a top selling agent, and I make them double as my designer. So they come in right from the very beginning and they tell me, this is what you should do and not do. Because they know, right? They've got the buyers, they know their market.
Right.
Now, don't do this with any agent, but a really top-selling agent. And they love it because I tell them, look, I plan on doing 12 to 15 deals in this market. I get them to do it for a flat fee, my whole thing.
What's the flat fee?
$1,500.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Now, you're not going to like that as a broker.
No. As a broker, I am
Maybe
offended.
we stop talking that model now.
I'm offended right now. Okay. So then, now that what would be the net profit percentage of the deal, like in a luxury? Like, what's the target?
So I still try to follow the 70% formula. So ARV times 0.7 less repairs, and that gives me about a 15% profit margin.
Okay, so 15% profit margin is the target after GCs paid, agents paid,
net
in the bank.
Yep, 15. And a lot of people look at that and they go, well, why aren't you happy to make 200 instead of 400? The reason why is you're taking a bigger risk.
Yeah.
Right. You're borrowing more capital. Sometimes you're not right on. You might have to sit a little. I mean, there's things that can go wrong. So
6 months turns.
I
into
better
12
hit a
months.
home run. Yeah, I better hit a home run.
Yeah.
So I want that. I still want that 15% margin.
Yeah.
Even on the big ones.
Okay.
You should. Like, you deserve it. You should.
So now let's take a turn. Where that was luxury, multi-millions to multi-million. Is the same margin for multi-million, 3 million? Same target? Okay.
Yep.
Now, new construction, not a lot of people are involved with new construction.
Yeah.
So talk about what new construction looks
So
like?
your formula is not, it's slightly different, but what's as the fix and flip formula, it's a little different because basically with fix and flip, you got two things. You got your house and the rehab. With new construction, you have your lot and the build, but you're still dealing with kind of two things. So with new construction, everything is about price per square foot. Like that's the measurement. You look at everything. So your build price per square foot and your sale price per square foot. So once you convert your thinking with new construction to price per square foot, it allows you to really understand how to look at that model. So, and a really general rule is whatever you're selling for price per square foot, so let's take $400 a foot, price per square foot, you want to be building, now this isn't always the case, but it's just a general rule, you want to be building for $200 a square foot. So your cost to build is $200 a square foot. You're selling at $400 a square foot. Obviously, you have your lot now in there, and your lot, if you're about 10 to 15% of your sale price. So I'm trying to ballpark a little bit here,
no, but it's good.
It kind of gives you a way now to look at things. So, but what's nice about new construction is all of the guesswork is gone.
Yeah.
Like what I do is I run my numbers. I think I've got my numbers. But then I spend the money up front for my design, my architectural plans. And I'll spend $10,000, $15,000 typically on a set of plans, custom plans. When I say custom, I want an architect to build a plan on that lot.
Yeah.
Capturing views or whatever, the right layout, where your garage is.
So we can't reuse.
No, it's not internet plans for $1 a foot. No, not when you're doing high end.
Right.
Now, if you're building a 300,000, buy it off the internet and plop it on a 50-foot lot or whatever.
Yeah.
So we custom build it. You'll have to invest $10,000 to $15,000, but now you can bid that out. And when you bid it out, you bid it to the dime. It's all new, right? So contractors now, there's no guesswork unless you change something.
There's no surprises when we
no
open
surprises.
this bathtub.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, rehabbing. It's like I've done hundreds of rehabs, and every single one, it's like, well, we didn't know that was there, and whoops, now we're over budget. Right?
Yeah, we didn't know the sewer line was done. Yeah.
So that's it's more predictable. And think about it. You know, there's nationally traded builders. There's not very many nationally traded rehabbers.
Yeah.
Because every deal is unique to the deal. Whereas construction, no. You can have a model and you can understand your cost up front. So then when I bid it out to builders, right? Now I know my numbers and I can say, does this make sense? Do I move forward? So I've done lots of deals where I've invested $10,000, $15,000, found out that my cost to build is way higher than I thought.
Right.
Now it doesn't make sense. I don't do the deal.
Yeah. And that goes back to when we were talking earlier about a 15% margin, because you have these other deals where you're spending $50 every time for the guy to underwrite it, and you got these hard costs that no deal happens, you still got that hard cost.
Yeah. But here's what's so cool about new construction. The other thing I love about it is you can be way more creative on your acquisition with lots. So lot owners will sell their lots, and they're way more open to creative financing than
they have to be.
They have to, because it's dirt. There's no value in it right now. So I'll buy a lot of my dirt on terms, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll get that lot owner to subordinate and carry. So they'll carry it for me and they'll subordinate, meaning they'll take a back seat to my construction loan.
Or a second lien.
And now my construction lender will look at the lot as my acquisition, as my equity, and they'll give me 100% construction. So now I'm doing a deal 100% financed.
Yeah.
And I didn't put a dime down on the lot, because I'll tell the lot owner, I'll say, I'll give you $200 for your lot, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to wait to get paid till I sell it. But it's not selling, it's sitting there, and you haven't been able to sell it. So all I need you to do is subordinate to my construction lender. Well, it's still leaned up. It's just second place.
Yeah.
Once we sell the house, you get paid your $200,000 and you get your lot moved.
Okay.
And now that $200,000 lot, the bank or my construction lender will now look at that as basically $200,000 down, and then they'll give me the $600 or $700 or whatever for construction.
So
100% financed.
That's incredible. So then, are you still looking at the same profit margin of 15% for new construction? Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how do you acquire those?
New construction? Well, now you're sourcing lots. And so you gotta start to really understand what's your new construction market. So you always start with what is new construction selling for, And that's the same as flipping, right? What's my ARV?
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't call it after repair. We would call it new construction sale price.
Right.
And so you start there. Now the second thing you got to figure out is, well, what's it going to cost me to build that house that sold for, $2.5 million or whatever. Start to figure out that number and then run your formula and get to your lot buy. And now you know what you got to acquire your lot for.
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar, right? With houses, right? So
back
with
into
flipping,
it.
you back into your buy.
Yeah.
So here you're backing into your lot buy, following pretty similar process.
So then the same GC that's doing your rehabs, or is that the same GC that's building these properties?
No.
Or completely different GC?
Yeah. So they're builders.
Okay.
So I'll hire a builder to do the new construction, usually.
So is there like a builder that you like in town, or?
Well, so every market's different. So I do new construction in Utah, and in Utah, the builder, be a builder is so competitive that there's a lot of them, and I can hire a builder for a flat rate of like $25,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like here in Arizona, they want 15%. It'll cost me $180,000 to hire that builder, where I can do the same thing in another market for like a really low flat fee.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to figure out, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
What's the right way to do it?
Fascinating.
Yeah. Every market's a little different.
So the other thing we talked about luxury, we talked about new construction. Now we're talking about virtual flipping. So there's virtual wholesaling, and there's some people that play in that space. Haven't heard a lot of people virtual flipping. So talk about that.
Well, fix and flip?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that GC NARC system. You've got to really have good eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's still not foolproof. Like I've gotten into some bad. Whenever I get over my head on a virtual, it's because I'm not getting the right information.
Yeah.
And my GC's taking me for a ride. So I end up not having the quality that it needs to be because he's cutting corners because he knows I'm not there every day looking at it.
Yeah.
So the way that you prevent some of that from happening is you got to have a really good eyes on the ground. So my agent's got to be eyes on the ground, my NARC's got to be eyes on the ground, and my GC better be an honest, good GC. If you can get those three things, then you can do deals remotely. But I look at every time I go into a remote market, I try not to look at one and done because there is a learning curve.
Yeah.
Every new market, there's a learning curve. So I look at it and say, I like this market. I like what's going on here. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not so worried about my first deal as I am my fourth or fifth deal.
Yeah.
Right. So let's find the right team. Maybe that takes a deal or two to get that right. I don't do so well. I mean, I don't want to lose money.
Right.
But I'm looking at it a little more long term than just like one deal.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
But I have a pretty healthy relationship with risk and fear. And most people don't. A lot of people that want to get into flipping, they really struggle with that fear. And
what do you mean?
Fear of messing up, fear of losing money.
Yeah.
And anybody I coach, I tell them, you're going to. Like, let's just get that out of the way. You're going to lose money on a deal. And they look at me like, what? You're going to lose money on a deal. Just
a matter of time.
If you're not, then you're not in the game long enough, or you're not doing the game right, because nobody bats 1,000%, right? I mean, what's a Hall of Fame baseball player? 300, 350?
300, yeah.
I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
That means you're not getting on base 7 times. So I kind of look at it and I say, at the end of the year, did I win more than I lost? And make sure that margin, that ratio is really good. But you have to, right? Because you're not going to hit it. You're not going to do it perfect every time on every deal.
Yep. So Max has a question. We kind of talked a little bit, but someone that's wholesaling right now in this market, right?
Yeah.
So that's who's listening right now. A lot of them 25, 30.
Yeah.
And they're wholesaling today. So what advice would you give them if they want to make this pivot to not just flipping, but luxury flipping?
Well, so if you're wholesaling, what I would say to a wholesaler is really sit down and think about your end game. Very few wholesalers stay wholesalers.
Yeah.
It's a hard life because it's such a hustle life. So it's not conducive to the ideal lifestyle for most wholesalers. Now I'm generalizing because there are some that just ramp their model up and they just crush it and they just stay wholesalers. But Generally speaking, what I've seen is people transition from wholesaling into the next step would be starting to do some fix and flips. Because you start to look at it and you go, I passed that deal off for 10 grand. That fix and flipper just made 40. Wait a minute, what's he doing that I can't do?
Yeah.
And you start to think about, well, maybe I should transition into that. And so those are some things to kind of think about. Well, where do you want to be? Or do you want to stay a wholesaler? Do you like that model so much so that you could see yourself doing it in 10 years? If the answer is no, then start to think about what that looks like and what do you need to learn? What do you need to do to kind of start to transition into that? And that can be a 2-year plan. I mean, for me, I did it 2 years, 5-6 deals a month, and I was happy as could be. It was great. But I looked at the business and I said, I want to always progress. How do I learn? What's the next thing for me to do to progress in my journey? And it's either do more wholesales or transition into higher profit deals.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one thing to really think about with wholesaling.
Okay. Well, I like that. So is there anything that you attribute your success to? Because, there's a lot of people that flip. What's been the key to your success?
I would say developing my mindset more than anything else. So when I first started wholesaling, I knew my mindset was wrong. I had a really bad mindset, a scarcity mindset. I grew up poor. I had a belief that success was directly correlated with how hard you worked. That's what my dad taught me. Good principle.
And my dad taught me the same.
Yeah, but it doesn't equate to money. Like there's no
doesn't.
relationship. You tie the relationship.
Yeah.
So I thought if I work really, really hard for a long time, then I'll see the fruits. And it's taken me a lot of work to change the mindset to more of a work smarter, not harder to get ahead, and more of a business mindset. And so this is like the biggest thing I could say to somebody is, especially wholesalers, don't focus on doing a deal, because maybe you do a deal, maybe you make some money, but in flipping, every deal you do, you're out of business, right? You got to do another deal to make money again. And so many flippers chase a deal instead of building a business that does deals.
Yeah.
And if you can adapt the mindset of, how do I build a business that does deals? Because now you have processes, you have systems, you start to build a team, you start to think outside of chasing and hustling and doing a deal. And that's the only way that you can really scale in this business and maintain a good work-life balance and have a good lifestyle is you've got to develop out the business side of this. And I see so many wholesalers that they just focus on the deal, the next deal, and they're inefficient and they're working really hard.
Yeah.
But they're not getting ahead. They're no better off than they were last month or last year. Because they're not developing out the business. So build the business.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because we talked about, you got your guy that underwrites for $50, and you got the NARC and the GC, but that's property specific for the most part.
Yeah.
So your operations today, right? So I mean, how many flips do you have going on right now?
So just a handful.
Just a handful.
Yeah, I just have a handful of deals going on right now at any given time.
So who's on staff in your organization?
So everything I'm doing on my deal business, everything is location specific. So wherever I'm doing a deal, I'm going to build my local team there.
Okay.
And that's my GC, my NARC, my agent. Those are my 3 key people. Title's important, but that's not as critical. But those are my 3. Maybe a designer if I'm doing higher end. Then I need a good designer. But I'm going to build my local team there. And then the other thing that I do that's been really instrumental to my business is bird dogs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I used to do 1 million mailings, literally 1 million mailings a year. In 2012, I did 1 million mailings. Like that was my total mailings I did.
Wow.
And I did crazy marketing. And now I've transitioned. It's taken a while, but now I've got bird dogs nationwide.
Yeah.
And I teach them, here's my criteria. Here's tools to go like find deals. I'll train you and teach you, but find deals that meet my criteria and bring them to me.
Yeah.
So now I no longer chase deals chase me.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're bringing me some deals. And so that's kind of my model now is if you buy into the bird dog model, it's the most brilliant model ever.
Right.
Right? Wholesalers, bird dogs, finders, I kind of put them all in the same category. It's other people that are willing to do the marketing, the negotiating, get the contracts, and bring them to me. As long as they're in my formula, I don't care how much they make on a deal.
Yeah.
As long as it fits my criteria, my formula. And that now has allowed me to really stop all acquisitions department completely.
Yeah. So you don't have to have an acquisition department, a marketing department. It's just deals just come.
If you build a good referral network, a good
Right.
bird dog network.
So then the other part we were talking about was you're either going to flip or you're going to wholesale.
Yeah.
So on the wholesaling side, are you the disposition arm?
So
are you the one that's passing that on?
No, so my same guy. So we have a process where we basically, if I don't want it but it's a deal, we co-wholesale. So I don't even want to develop a cash buyer list. What I want to develop is a wholesaler list, because what I found is other wholesalers that are doing that business really full time, the players, they're going to have a better cash buyer than I would, or that I'm willing to develop.
Yeah.
So I'll go to you, Steve, and say, hey, I got this deal. Shop it to your buyers, and we'll co-wholesale.
Yeah.
And even that has worked brilliantly. And I can find the players on Craigslist in about an hour.
Right.
I can find them, I can talk to them, and I can co-wholesale a deal in an hour if it's a deal.
Yeah.
Because if it's a deal, those guys are going to have buyers ready to go,
Right.
and they'll gladly co-wholesale with you.
Yeah.
Simple JV agreement, done.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And a lot of those are 20 grand, 30 grand gross that you're splitting with that wholesaler. And so it's a little different mindset, because everything you learn about the business is build a cash buyer list, and then do this massive acquisitions. And you are, if you want to dominate as a wholesaler and own the whole thing,
Right.
acquisitions to disposition. But since I'm kind of more focusing on higher margin flips, I don't really need that model
Right.
so much.
As not as critical to your operation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about markets, because you talked about Hurricane Harvey, and it's obviously here. Heard you talk about Utah. So what markets are you virtually flipping in?
Well, so it really doesn't matter if somebody finds a deal that meets that criteria I like. I don't care where it's at in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I have a few rules, like I don't like low end. So ideally, like I was saying earlier, I love the 300 to 600. I get really excited there because I can learn that model anywhere.
Yeah.
That's an easy one to learn. Over 600 in a market I don't know is a little more work, because there's some nuances there, because now you're hitting luxury, and that's going to change market to market, even what you do, and what that buyer wants. The under 300 I don't get so excited about, and I won't touch anything that ARV's less than 100.
Yeah.
Really 150, because it's just, for what you'll make on that, it's not worth the time, energy, and effort. If you know how to make more for the same time, energy, and effort at a little higher end.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like honestly, Steve, I see the flippers here in Arizona, and it blows my fix and flippers. It blows my mind how competitive it is at the 200,000 price point, how little margins they make, and how there's one after another that'll do it. I don't understand it. I don't understand a $5,000 or $10,000 profit margin doing a fix and flip.
Right. Well, for the risk.
Yeah. There's easier ways to make 5 or 10 grand. I mean, the wholesaler made more than you did.
Right.
Usually.
Well, and I think that's kind of the attitude you see on our Facebook forums. They're like, man, the wholesaler is eating better right now than the flippers are.
I did one this past summer, Steve. It was I picked up a package back in Detroit, Oak Park, Michigan. It was 5 houses from a burned out landlord. I picked them all up. And these were my old model of like 125, 150 ARV. Little 1,000 square foot brick ranches, 25 grand, easy rehabs. Like I can do that in my sleep. And one of them, I was like, you know what? I've done the other 4. I kind of am done with this. I'm bored with this. I'm just going to wholesale this last one. I make 2 phone calls, and I wholesale this thing for like 32 grand to a fix and flipper. And I know what it takes to fix him up. I know what it'll sell for. And I'm like, he's going to make 15 grand if he does everything right. He's going to make 15 grand. I just made 32 wholesaling it.
Yeah.
So I get it. I mean, I see why now there is no better time to wholesale. But here's the thing. Here's the trade-off. Harder to get deals, make more money than you ever made wholesaling, because the buyers are overpaying. They're way out of formula.
Yeah, they are.
Like in Arizona, I think I talked to one wholesaler that does about 80 wholesales. I don't know if you know Dave McLennan.
I know of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super great guy, good friends. I grew up with him, so I know him for a long time.
Yeah.
He told me, he said, Jerry, my cash buyer formula is 82%.
Mm-hmm. It is.
82%.
Yeah. That's what it is right now. That's what it is today. It's 82% minus repairs. I don't know anyone's paying 82% outright. But
82% less repairs.
Yeah. That's
82% less repairs.
That's been the formula for about a year now.
Mine's 65%, maybe 70%, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, oh my God. I can't, so if you're in the low end business, if you're going to flip in the 200 price point, do not be a fix and flipper, be a wholesaler, because the wholesalers are making all the money.
Right.
Because they're getting the off market deals. Mm-hmm. They're making 25. The fix and flipper, who's doing all the work,
taking all the risk,
is making 15, 10. Yeah. Crazy how that is. But it's because it's harder to find deals. So when you get that deal, there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah. So we already talked about Flipster. That's the name of your.
Mm-hmm. That's my software.
That's your software. So is that the tool that you can't live without?
Yeah, that's the tool you can't live without.
Okay. And then what would you do if the market dips?
Well, so the fortunate thing about flipping is you really shouldn't get caught in the market because you're not in it long term. Mm-hmm. Right? So
in a luxury though, you're in it.
In luxury, you are in it a little bit. So there's more risk there, especially like the Paradise Valley $3 to $5 million homes.
Yeah.
Those are 18 2-year turns. Mm-hmm. So you could definitely get caught in some of those. I actually hope that we flatten out and we level out some more in the market. And the reason why is because I think the majority of flippers will go away because they're surviving on accident right now.
Yeah.
Because they're riding an appreciating market. So they're screwing up and still making money.
Right.
When it's a flatter market, they go away a lot quicker. Mm-hmm. And then you're left with just people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it would help the real flippers. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
No, not at all. We have the same exact mantra in real estate, right? Like if you're in an appreciating market, even if you price it wrong, it'll still sell.
Yeah. So if the market will just flatten some, then all of these flippers at 82% making 10 or 15, they will go out of business because they'll start losing money.
Right.
And they only need to lose money a couple times before they go back to the job or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then we'll get back to more healthy formulas, and it won't be so competitive on the the buy side. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when I went through 2010, I didn't slow down one bit. I had to work a whole lot harder selling, but I could buy any day of the week.
2010, world's your oyster for buying.
Like foreclosures were like boom, like REOs. I would just buy REOs like any day I wanted. But then it was like getting your buyer to qualify for financing was a whole nother story.
Yep. But
I did fine then.
So what is your biggest struggle right now?
Well, it's the same as everybody, finding deals, getting deals, So because the challenge I have right now, Steve, is because so many flippers will pay 82% and I want to be at 70%, the wholesalers that have a list, they can make more with their list than bringing me deals.
Right.
That's my biggest challenge is I'm having a hard time from the serious, like A-player wholesalers who are good at getting deals because they can make more with somebody else.
Right.
So where I've had to really rely on is the entry-level new
bird doggers
that don't have a cash buyer list, don't know that they could get more if they did, and they bring them to me.
But they don't know how to get more also.
Right.
Right. They wouldn't know. They don't have a buyer's list yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it works, but it means I've got to cultivate 10 times more bird dogs because 9 out of 10 don't stick with it.
Yeah. Okay. And then what would you consider to be your superpower?
Systems.
Yeah.
Systems, having a business focus on this. If you think about it, Steve, if you're a onesie-twosie flipper, let's take fix and flip, and you put all your focus in finding the deal, all your focus in managing the deal, all your focus in marketing and selling the deal, and you can turn a deal in 4 or 5 months, and then you start all over again, you're only going to do 3 deals a year, max.
Right.
Right? And that's how most flippers operate. They're a 3 to 5 a year company, but they could easily do 10 or 15 and half the work that they're spending right now if they just learned how to develop out some systems with technology and some team people.
Yeah.
and they'd make way more money, and they'd have way more time and freedom.
Right, which is the end goal.
Which is why everybody does this in the first place.
Right.
Like, why are you doing this?
Exactly.
I found that. I went from one job to another job. I made more money, but it was just another job.
Yeah.
And that's not why I did this.
You weren't fulfilled.
Yeah, I wasn't fulfilled. So focusing on that lifestyle first is key, I think.
Absolutely. What is the greatest lesson you've learned?
That success in this business is 90% mindset, 10% skill. You can learn how to wholesale. You can learn how to fix and flip. That's the 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have an abundance mindset, you don't have a healthy relationship with money and how that works with time, with success, then you'll just self-sabotage. You'll never, your thermostat will reset back to broke and back to struggle and back to hardship and back to scarcity.
And that's so incredibly true about the thermostat. So for you guys that don't know, you got your temperature thermostat, right? If it's set at 75, the room gets hotter, AC turns on. If it gets lower, the heater turns on. So we all have a financial thermostat.
Yeah.
And if you're accustomed to a certain amount of money, when money starts coming in, you find a way to blow it to get back to the same.
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
You don't even know you're doing it.
You find a way to do it. And we see that with people that win the lottery.
Yeah. And I did that for a long time. I was roller coaster, and I'm like, why am I broke again? I just made money. And so I had to really work on that. And Secrets of the Millionaire Mind was transformational for me. T. Harv Eker, his book. Mm-hmm. I still listen to that book a couple times a year on audio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've listened to it 25 times.
Yeah.
Because I got to go back and make sure my wealth files are aligned, my affirmations, and because these things are ingrained in us from our childhood. Mm-hmm. They're not easy to eradicate.
Yeah, we're programmed.
They're programmed in there deep, and they'll resurface. They'll rear their ugly head. The other thing I think, Steve, is, what I tell people is make more offers. Mm-hmm. And so I have a belief that if you make 100 offers a month, that's 5 a day, 5 days a week, 25 a week, 100 a month. If you just do that, you will get a deal. It's the law of averages. It's just how it works.
Exactly.
But most people aren't willing to do it.
No, they're afraid of rejection.
They're afraid of rejection. That's the exact reason why. They're afraid of rejection. And I tell people this, and they get to offer number 40, and then they say to me, you know what, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're giving up too early. Make 100 offers. You will get that deal of a lifetime if you're willing to make 100 offers a month.
All right.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Let it roll off your back when you get the rejection. Don't sweat it, and just make more offers. If that property's still available, if they're asking 180 and you offer 110, and it's still available next week, offer again, offer again, offer again. I can't tell you how many stories where, it's listed for 120, you offer 60, they say no, you offer again, you offer again, you offer again. 6 months later, they take your 60. Like, that happens.
Yeah.
More than you'll think if you'll just do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So Sean Ananda had a question. Is Flipster a mobile app or a desktop app?
It's mobile friendly, so you log in just like you would on the desktop, and it works just fine on your iPhone or iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they want to learn more about Flipster, how do they do that?
So Flipster, if you go to Flipster software /97, that will take you to a video you can watch where it goes through all what it is. It's about a 10-minute video, and then you can decide. There's 3 different levels of it. Mm-hmm. And then you can decide at the end of that video if you want to do the basic, pro, or prime.
Yeah.
And you get more things, obviously, depending on which level you go.
Right.
Yeah. It's a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
Yep. Cancel anytime. Yeah. But you'll find that it'll change your life. What I tell people is, if you're brand new, follow the Flipster system of doing the data entry and the tracking everything. The temptation is, you know what? I really don't need to do all of this because it's just I got one deal going on and I already know everything about it. But if it's like anything, if you build the right mindset around it and the right process, then when you start getting to 3 and 4 and 5, you're jamming, man. You can do it. You can manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then guys, this Jerry is always looking for deals. You've built a nationwide referral network of bird dogs. Mm-hmm. And if you want to send him deals, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is, and you get paid $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the capital, he's got the system for fixing them up, and he's selling them. So if you're new to real estate and want a ready-to-go buyer, or you're a seasoned wholesaler, you want to get more serious cash buyer to take deals to, Just go to findhousesgetpaid.com, findhousesgetpaid.com. And from there, you can see a web training on how to get started, on how to bring you deals. And then he's also got that project we talked about earlier. It was Real Estate Freedom TV. Definitely check it out. I watched a few episodes. It's pretty exciting.
Oh, cool.
So
thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And thank you.
Yeah.
This
thank
has
you,
been
Steve.
An absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
Got a lot of gems out of this. I'll see you guys next week.